Good Tuesday morning. Oh, sorry, Thursday morning. Yeah, we're closer to the weekend. Good Thursday morning to you. PT Breakfast Club, the morning radio show for PT business owners. I'm Jimmy McKay. Dave Kittle is going to jump in the studio. Tony is going to be here later this hour, and we've got something a little bit different. It's fun when you do something one way for a while, and then if you change it just a couple of percentage points, all of a sudden it's like really, really different. So we've got a special guest this morning and a little bit of a preview. See, if this is the morning radio show for physical therapy business owners, then I don't know, APTA's PPS conference, the private practice section conference, feels like, what is that? Is it the Super Bowl? Is that Coachella? Is that Comic-Con? Is it all of those things? So we've got a special guest who's presenting there, has presented there before in other places, CSM, the whole nine. He's going to give a little preview about this topic that a little passionate about it. And I hope we can get some energy out of this guy. He's a little subdued. So let's bring in the special guest. Before we bring a guest in, I can see your faces. Like I can see the monitor. And I'm a little subdued. Put the special guest in the middle there. Jerry Durham on the show. Jerry, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning.
So you're doing the smart things, which is you're previewing in all your media this talk that you're going to give. Have you ever even talked about this before? Is this a topic you've ever even touched upon?
Yeah, maybe so. The front desk, right? The front desk in your healthcare practice. So, yeah, something I've talked about before numerous times. I'll tell you what's here. Here what's cool. So PPS, right? Private practice section of the American Physical Therapy Association. Now you got me thinking, what of those three? It's not the Super Bowl because CSM would have to be the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right.
All-Star game?
Cool. Yeah, for there we go. For private practice. Yeah. And it's a good thing. And I think I missed a couple in the middle, probably around COVID. But the value to me is high being there. And I got to tell you, it's about, even again, pre-COVID, it was about meeting people face to face and the networking. So you get that real tight group of people, right? Private practice owners who want to meet other people, who are committed to learning, who want to talk about new things. And it's great to have all those people in one space. And I love it when we have it at places where people can't leave, to be brutally honest.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, right, the content, people are coming in and out of content all day. Sometimes I hang out. 2 years ago in Colorado. I love this story. 2 years ago in Colorado, I found a spot where everybody had to walk by, right? There was this location with no matter where you were going at PPS, you had to walk by the spot, and there was a couch and 2 chairs. So one morning, right, got up, had breakfast, crack of dawn, and before anything started, I planted my butt there and hung out there for like 2 hours. And right, anybody who was there had to walk by there, so it was really cool. And saw, needless to say, everybody I wanted to see or needed to see. And then, right, if it was like, hey, let's connect later. It was almost like the place you sat down, got to say hello to everybody, and then if you needed to schedule something, you scheduled something. So, this location, real quick, this location you can leave, but I still think it's a great location because most of this stuff is inside of it, right?
Yeah, National Harbor, the Gaylord, they understand what they're doing.
Right, yeah, the Gaylord understands about keeping people. And that's where it was in Colorado, right, at the Gaylord. So,
and that's the thing, and we'll get into this too afterwards, but I want you to tee up like what you're talking about. Why someone who's on the edge of a diving board. I decided to go yesterday, so I'm going to take the trip down from New York. Tony's going to be here in a little bit. He's going. Yeah, Dave, we're going to twist his arm. Maybe he's going to go. He's going to the mountains or something like that. But this is someone for at the edge of a diving board who's an owner. Like, what is someone going to walk away with? What are you going to get on stage and hit him with 7 different kinds of smoke?
So for me, well, here, because I've read through, right? I go through and see, I look at every single presentation's going to be out there, right? And there is consistency there. They do something for like new business owners every year. There's always compliance stuff, right? Which changes. Oh, Lord have mercy, right? So So there's always things like that. So then I'm always looking at, okay, what's new? And what I like this year, I got to be honest, is there is more than one about going direct to employer, right? So there's, shall we call it a different practice? I don't want to say new practice model, but a different practice model. And the presentations by people who have been in it, people facilitating it, people doing it. So I think there's huge value in people showing up just for those conversations, right? And then again, the people in the room are people doing it, but everybody attending, then you almost build out your own little community of people. Okay, what have you done? What have you done, right?
And the thing is, I want to paint this picture because, I mean, I've only been to like 2 or 3 PPS and 8 or 9 CSMs, but like the thing is, at CSM, it really is this combined section. At PPS, everybody sort of understands the pain. No one has to explain the pains. Everybody's like, you got, a little different from state to state, maybe, but it's really the same pain.
Right. And so you got those people, right? Again, direct to employer, everybody in the same room thinking, something's got to give here, right? So it's a great place to learn. It's a great place to start conversations. And it's a great place to build a community to stay in touch with. Now me, you knew I'd get to me.
I thought we'd get to you faster.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to give it a plug, right? I respect and they've been good to me and I appreciate it. And there's value there for people and I want them to understand why. Here's the lead into me. They also have what's called an admin council. They have an admin track at PPS, which I don't know if a lot of people know this. So
I didn't know that.
There we go. Yeah.
Very smart.
So parallel to content for the owners is content for the admin team. Brilliant, right? And you can get a certification there because at the end of it, you have to take a test. So they require you attend, I think it's 5 or 6 talks. And they put me in that last year. And I can't tell you how happy and glad and excited I was.
Yeah.
And it's required of them. So I had a talk. I got to share this. I had a talk put together last year, and it was for owners. They accepted it, and it was for owners. A couple weeks later, they accepted it. I basically had it together, and I was like, okay, here we go. They said, hey, Jerry, we're going to put you in the admin track. And I was like, wow. And they said, we're going to require it, right? So you'll be a required content for the admin teams. And I was like, wow. And I hung up the phone about 5 minutes later and went, can I curse? Whatever. I was like, oh, fuck, because I had to redo the talk and I owed it to the admin people that were in the room to redo my talk. I didn't want them to come sit in a talk that was set up for owners talking about admin people. So the theme was still the same and the talk was still the same, but I redid it to talk to the admin people in the room. And I got to tell you, I've never put so much energy and time into one talk. Yeah. And I was so happy with it. And I got good feedback afterwards. So, right, the talk this year is they asked me to keep the same talk, same theme. And so I kept it. But what I realized is it is the foundation for a front desk person to own the process in the company they work at, in the practice they work at. So everybody wants a script for how to manage a front desk call and convert a potential patient into a paying customer. And I said, that's cool, but I've trained a lot of people, and including myself when I did it, and the script was just part of a process. It wasn't the answer. And so I changed the talk up and put together the structure of a business and why is sales such a central part of the business. So I talk about the business as a whole and then get back to the front desk. And it's an hour and a half, and it's really interactive. There is talking at you at the beginning, but after, and I've everywhere in it, the conversations, because what's really cool now again is the people in the room are the people doing. So I asked them, tell me about this, or what do you think about this, or that last phone call you were on. You can't do that with owners. And by the way, half the time you find out, and I love this, right? Because I'll get a new client, I'll get the owner on a phone, I'll get the admin, and I'll ask a question, and I'll say something like, do you guys do this? And the owner will go like this, and the admin will go, and guess who I believe, right? So to have them in the room is really cool. So I'm really excited because I really want to elevate this role, as you all know, and I'm actually on a kick. And I've had this idea for a long time, it just, right. When was it appropriate to roll it out? Was to create $100,000 front desk salesperson. That means someone who's growing your business and understands the business and doing such good work in their role in a sales position to put people who are a good fit for your business on people's schedules who arrive, pay, and stay, right?
So let's do this. I want to make sure people understand. Like, so you're going to be on.
There you go. Thank you.
Arrive, pay, and stay. That's pretty much it, right? Friday.
You got it. And that's that role, right, of the front desk. They own. So I'm going to tell you, the title is a hook, right?
Gotta be, yeah.
Yeah. But the content is the big picture on how to create something, right? That will minimize all these negative metrics, right? And facilitate arrival.
Okay. So let me ask this. Let's go with the big ones, right? So what are some of the biggest mistakes practices make at the front desk? You just maybe highlighted one,
sure,
or where a symptom where the owner says yes and the front office person says no, that lead to drop-offs, no-shows, and cancellations.
So here's number one, and anybody listening to this could do something about this today. And by the way, anything I share, I didn't do in my own business. I always put the context out there and didn't do it for some of it for 8-9 years in my business, and then finally fell into it. And some stuff I'm still figuring out. But number one is your front desk actually serves 3 roles in your business. There's I call it the voice of the company. So the salesperson, right? Hello, my name is Jimmy. I want to schedule physical therapy. I have low back pain. Well, hello, Jimmy. My name's Jerry. Thank you for calling ABC Physio. That's the voice of the company, right? That first contact. That is a role within itself.
Sure.
Then there is the face of the company, right? More of the customer service person. You got it. The retention person. So we have a salesperson, the converter. Then we have the retention person. And then there is that third role, which I don't really have a good name for it. I just call it back office admin. People who, whether it's billing, more to do with the compliance, more to do with the paperwork. They're not so much customer facing, but they play a huge role in patient success. All 3 of those roles play a role in patient success. If you understand that and you post for a front desk job and you understand which one you need to fill, then you will be far, far more successful in decreasing. And by the way, it doesn't matter what role it is. Any of those roles can help to decrease cancels, no-shows, and drop-offs, right? So that's number one. And anybody could take a step back and go, wait a minute, right? And it's that thing, right? Oh, how is my front desk supposed to answer new patient calls when they're helping someone get scheduled out? And I'm like, they're not. I've literally told people go, what am I supposed to do if I'm helping a current client and the phone rings? I'm like, don't answer it, right? So again, this idea.
Is this an ownership thing in terms of like owning tasks? Is this a business person like letting go and saying, you own this, I'm going to hold you accountable? But on the admin side, the front desk side, they're like, I want to own this, most likely. That person, yeah, okay.
And I like the fact you said, I want to own this. So this is what I find out a lot working directly with the front desk team is they have a broader, wider, better, and I'm going to say better knowledge of the flow of the business than anybody else in the company. And I just did a video on this yesterday. And no disrespect to anybody else in the company, but this front desk person understands how people are getting to you. They're understanding what issues they're having because they're talking to them first. They're understanding payment issues. And then they have to understand what happens next when they arrive. They have to understand somewhat, right, high level, what's going on during fulfillment, meaning a course of care. They have to understand the billing, high level again, and when statements go out. Nobody else in the business can talk that whole stream like that front desk person, right? And anybody probably involved in any of those 3 roles knows the business better than anybody else, right? And so give them the ownership, give them the KPIs and the accountability, right? You said it.
Right.
100%.
You can't tell me, to use, you're a baseball fan. You can't tell me RBIs are important, but then not let me swing away when there's someone.
Yeah, right. Right.
And then say, why didn't you drive in more runs? Like, right. It's not fair. That's not fair. Dave, what do you got?
So, Jerry, you recently posted a piece of content about, this was you doing a talk. It was recorded. And you said something like, you get a new caller, the phone rings, and it's a potentially $1,000. It's worth a potential $1,000 on the other end of that call. So
Right.
with owners now that are focusing more on this admin, this front desk person component, and you said this person could potentially be making $100,000 a year. Is that, for owners out there, is that something that you've seen where some of these individuals are experienced and they're just so great that they're on that type of a salary, or is it like salary plus some performance component? Because then I think owners and front desk people could then further be bought into that phone rings and it's not worth $100, or it's not worth like 50 or whatever, but it's actually worth 1,000, or in an out of network cash
Lifetime
practice
value.
for two grand or more. So how can owners understand the different options there with compensating these individuals? Maybe they start just salary, or they just start 50-50 salary and performance pay. What have you seen and what's working out there in private practice?
Good question. Jerry, I think we lost your mic.
Oh, sorry, I put myself on mute because I get excited sometimes, so I mute myself when other people
You've
are
got him
talking.
primed.
Dude, yeah. Let's go high level real quick, right? Outside of healthcare, salespeople, right? In many Fortune 500 companies, right? Fortune 100 companies, the top paid employees are the salespeople. And there are salespeople out there, sit down people, who take zero salary because they want all commission. So just for context, right? I want everybody to understand, because they drive so much business, right, that they can work and they're good at what they do, right? They can make far more money off commission than taking a dime otherwise, right? And I've done some sales courses where people, right, structure that out and show how do you, because number one is you got to hire the right person who's incentivized this way, right? So then we're back to, you have to understand the 3 roles and you've got to post properly. So with that all said, there's a context. Yes, David, I think there are multiple ways to do this. Here we go again. The owner's got to know their numbers inside and out. And the most important number, I'm just going to say this and let's not get in the weeds. You have to know your break even, right? How many new patients do we need on the schedule to pay the bills every month? Because you don't want to incentivize. Personally, I'm not going to incentivize people for getting us to zero, right? They're going to get paid.
Right.
Right. But we got to pay our bills monthly. People got to get paid, right? Rent's got to get paid. But once we go over that, then yeah, David, we could look at a bonus structure, incentives, however you want to do that. And yeah, when I was doing this, a new patient was worth $2,400 to the business, right? And I had this moment where I looked at my front desk team and I said, do you know how much that call's worth? And from that day forward, I'm just going to tell you, it's not magically we blew up and made a bunch of money, but man, it got approached differently, right? And so, and then I went back to my providers and made sure they knew, right? I'm still running into clients all the time and people have no idea what's going on, right? Business-wise, as far as like, what is a person who wants to do business with us, who values what we do, who can benefit from what we do, right? What do we have to gain from them? We have $2,400. And then now in this world, I'm like, right, with programs and we don't have to get into RTM and everything else, right? Kate staying in touch, right? The value goes through the roof. Again, it all started in one place. And that front desk salesperson is going to be selling the whole journey, man. You don't go overboard. Obviously, we got to get them in the door and we got to respect why they're coming in today. But still, they're going to start learning about the bigger picture from that front desk salesperson. They're going to find out about the other stuff. So does that answer your question, Dave? Yeah, absolutely. I believe it's an incentive bonus type program.
I think it's deeper than that too, because you can go into psychology real quick and they actually show that like incentives, like Adam Grant talks about this a lot, like money typically doesn't drive especially the right people, right? They want sense of fulfillment. They want to enjoy the people they're around. They want to feel like what I row, it moves the boat in the right direction. Like that's why the right people show up to work. And when I understand that, things change.
So check this out. Thanks for saying that, Jimmy. Check this out. So part of the program and part of the talk is everybody has to come together under one goal in the business, right? Every successful business, and this is my talk almost starts with this line. Every successful business has the same blueprint, right? I didn't make it up. It's existed forever, right? And part of it, Jimmy, is everybody, this is where I got, and this is a book, hold on, sitting right here, that I got from a speaker at PPS like 5-6 years ago. the 4 disciplines of execution. This is about the doing, right? Everybody's reading the mindset, the start with why, don't get me wrong. That huge impact on me. This is the doing book. This is about getting a team aligned behind one big goal. And that's where I came up with that completed plans of care, and why so much of my content says completed plans of care. So everybody in the team, all 3 of those roles, I can show all 3 of them how they contribute to a completed plan of care.
And when you can do that
in an interview, right? In an interview, Jimmy. And when you post for the job, right? You said I was going to get excited. You know, you post for the job with this idea that, hey, Dave, you're not some fucking front desk admin at a healthcare office. You're creating patient success at this business.
Right.
Let me show you how. By the way, I'm going to show you in the interview the bigger picture and how the patient moves through and your role and how big it is in this company. So to your point, Jimmy, exactly. So, right, it's that all these pieces coming together to have someone sitting across from you going, I want to be part of this. And oh, by the way, cool, I'll get paid, right? Yeah, and I'll get paid, right? I want to be a part of this and I'll get paid. And what? There's a huge upside here if I just do my job and I'm like, fuck yeah.
And people like understanding what their role is. All right, so parting shot before we head down. It's actually close. It's like 2 weeks away. What's your parting shot to get someone who's either going to PPS already, who's making sure they're going to be there on Friday for happy hour with Jerry, because you're 4 to 5:30. Smart.
You are correct, dude. And by the way, happy hour in Philly, all my best happy hours start at 4.
All right. So what's your parting shot for from making sure people understand drop-offs, no-shows, and cancels?
I'm just going to say, if you show up at PPS and you come to my talk, and by the way, there are like 3 other talks at the same time. I'm not going to lie. And there's one that I was like, shit, if I wasn't talking, I'd be in this talk, by the way. Yeah. So here's the shot for mine. You will have the structure 130% to deliver what we have just talked about, all of it. If you'll have the structure, all you have to do is execute.
Yeah. And some people like the plan.
I promise. I guarantee it. And I'm going to say at the beginning, I'm putting up the objectives and going, if this doesn't happen, reach out to me. If you don't hear this, reach out to me. I want everybody in this room to walk out of here and be successful.
Sounds good. All right.
Especially the front desk people.
It should be. Drop-offs, no-shows, cancels, and short-term cash flow killer. The long-term value destroyer. PPS, that's on Friday the 11th, 4 to 5:30, just in time for happy hour. Jerry Durham, appreciate you stopping by, my man.
Thank you, guys.
Jerry, thank you.
I wish he had more energy. Like, I wish he was a little more enthusiastic. Maybe next time we'll get him, a cup of coffee. Gonna bring Tony. What were we saying, Dave?
Hey, I was just saying, like, that's the thing with Jerry's talks is like he is so unique and so dynamic that, and he even said it, like his talks are interactive. Like he'll literally like point at people in the audience and say like, so he'll be like, answer this question, but he'll, without even saying like, give me the answer, but like he'll point and say like, so how much are you guys being reimbursed for a visit? And someone will like shout out like $100, and then I'll be like, all right, so what's your average plan of care? And someone will say like 10 visits, and it'll be like, yeah, so that's why 100 times 10. That's why this phone call is worth $1,000.
Yeah. Tony, good morning.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me okay?
Sounds good.
Morning.
Right. You guys know Jerry did a secret caller for my clinic and came to my clinic in person. Do you guys remember this?
Which clinic? Ohio, Florida?
The clinic I'm in right now, Ohio, Monroe. I'm sitting here. It must have been like a Friday or a Thursday. I've got one patient left on the schedule. Jerry and Paul Goff show up at the front door. They come into my clinic. I'm like, what are you guys doing here? We ended up having a great time. We got a bunch of PTs together. We went out that night for like a, meet and greet. It was classic.
Wait. But you didn't know they were coming?
No, I had no idea. They were driving through. Jerry and Paul went on this like cross-country tour, and they were visiting all these different clinics.
It's funny you mentioned cross-country tour is because, we let off with Jerry. He's talking at PPS. It would be fun to have another maybe guest or a speaker from PPS jump on the show too before that comes up in a couple of weeks. But Tony, you're going.
Yeah.
You decided you were going to go a couple of weeks ago. I decided yesterday that I'm officially going. And then someone DM'd me because I think I tweeted like who's going or whatever. I was trying to gauge interest and who's going to be there. And someone said, sounds like you guys are doing college game day. Like, do you have a desk? Are you going to put, is Tony going to put giant heads on like Lee Corso? What are we going to be doing? And we have the technology. I mean, I've got the live kit, I've got the cameras, I've got the lights, I got the microphones and the live streaming stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I'm putting out a soft pitch right now. You guys didn't know I was going to do this, but maybe there's a company out there is like, we got booth space, because that's what we need. We're either going to post up in the lobby of the hotel. Like, what are they going to do? Like, put us in podcast jail? You know what I mean? Maybe they'll ask us to move. Maybe they'll throw us out. I've been thrown out of nicer places than this, but maybe there's a company that's got a booth that's like, we'll house you. We'll give you a plug and let you plug your lights in. And if you just throw us a mention, but I don't know if there's a company out there and you want to do this, but DMs are open, as the kids these days are saying. So Tony, why'd you decide to go to PPS? Like it's not a small investment, time, effort, money, the whole nine.
Yeah, I know. I have been antisocial for too long. Like, COVID gave me the excuse never to get out of my comfort zone again.
No.
And every time I think of these things, and I'm sure people watching go through the same kind of roller coaster, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to meet everybody in person and shake some hands. And then 5 minutes later, it's like, oh, I don't want to talk to people. It's going to be so awkward. I have no idea what to say. And you just go up and down and up and down. Right now I'm on the down. I'm like, man, I don't want to do this. Like,
I'll hold your hand.
But I'm sure once we get there, like, we'll figure it out. Plus, if I have you as a wingman, it's a piece of cake.
I'm the ultimate icebreaker. I'm a great wingman. I set people up. Dave, have you ever been to a PPS? I mean, this is could not be more of the target market for PPS in the conference.
Yeah, I had a booth for Vinicial back in 2015 and 2016. It's fun. I mean, it's busy. There's a ton of owners that you see on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all that. You recognize faces right away. It's like you said kind of earlier, like, everyone is there for kind of like the same reason. It's like, we have practices. We want to grow. We want to improve practices. We want to sometimes complain about the same things, health insurance reimbursement, payment, that whole thing. But yeah, there's always different speakers, and I think the ABTA PPS has done a pretty good job with speakers. They've had Daniel Pink when I was there. 2015 they had Gary Vaynerchuk. He was the keynote speaker, and Kevin Schmidt at Pedal PT was the first one to ask him a question. I was like the second person to ask a question. I met Greg Todd for the first time in 2015 at right after Gary Vaynerchuk's talk. So they usually do a great job with the format and the scheduling. They have people like Jerry Durham come and talk and share their expertise.
So I was going to talk about this with Jerry, but if I talked about this, he would be here for 12 months. And I love that about Jerry, which is why you should see him speak. But CSM, I think the tickets for CSM are like $600-700, right? $500-700. PPS is $1,500. Membership to APTA is like $500. Most of the other sections in Academy is like $50-100, and private practice is like 300% higher. There's a reason for that. The people joining this are not stupid with their money, right? They pay attention. So they're not paying attention to the price side of that value. They're paying the equation. They're paying attention to the value side of the equation. I think they give a good example on they're just like every other section in Academy and APTA, right? They have the same opportunities, except they do it differently and they can charge a premium, which is also what I wanted to talk about. Because Dave, you had shared in the group chat an image. I want you to talk about this one.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I was on Twitter, saw the screenshot, thought of you guys, thought of this show right away. This individual tweeted, so last night at my tennis lesson, this lady walked up to my tennis coach and asked, how much do you charge for an hour one-on-one session? And the tennis coach said $85. The lady gasped and she said she couldn't afford that and asked if the tennis coach would be willing to work on her price, which that's a whole other conversation. It's so disrespectful and ridiculous anyway for most people. The tennis coach told the lady to text her and they could work something out, which usually means haggle, and I'll chop my price down. And then the woman said thanks, walked away, walked to the parking lot, got in her Porsche 911 and took off. Now, of course, there's a few comments below that, tweets below that, where someone's like, well, you don't know that lady's circumstance, and her husband could have just lost his job, but she still has a Porsche, whatever. So there are people protecting the Porsche owner. There are people, defending the tennis coach. We've talked about pricing and rates and out of pocket and all that. So I think I'll kick it back over to you guys, maybe hear what Tony's initial reaction or response would be. But obviously, I have mine.
Yeah.
Jimmy,
Tony, what do you think? I was thinking this while I was brushing my teeth this morning, and I forget how I got on the topic. By the way, I have podcasts in my own head when there are no microphones, and I'm sure you guys do this too. But it was the phrase, and I think I've said this before, which is value and perceived value. And I'm like, they're both the same thing, right? It's just how much you want it. And I think I said this in one of the posts Tony had up the other day, which is someone was asking, why would this situation happen? Right? People bitch about prices on things that they need, not want, right? People complain about food costs and gas costs and housing costs, but they find a way to make a Louboutin bag or a PS5 or a larger TV, right? So this one was sort of juxtaposition because this is her bitching about something she wants, right? But she's seeing this mismatch in value. Like, I could never afford that. Like, what would your response have been if you changed tennis lessons to PT? Like, this is like a real world application, which is why I wanted to put it up. Like, what would you say? I mean, you can't come across the top and do this. That's the fastest way you can't come at her. But Tony, what would you have said, or how do you diffuse and start to move around to get into a better, more constructive conversation?
Yeah, to me, this is like the best thing that lady said, because that lady would have just saved a year of frustration on my side.
Bingo.
Like, that lady just opened the door for me to say, thank you, but this is clearly not for you.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about in the PT clinic, it's the same thing. Like, I think you have to understand culture. You have to understand these social dynamics. My mom came from South America. She was born and raised in Colombia. She haggled for everything, whether she had the money in her pocket or not. It was just part of the culture. There are people who feel good about paying full price or more. There are people who would pay it, but they only feel good if they can haggle it down a couple bucks. So we've got that. To Jimmy's point, is it something you need or something you want? I don't believe we deliver anything in my physical therapy clinic that people need. I think everything we deliver here, it's a nice to have. It's not a necessary to have. All of my patients have been coming that, like, they've been dealing with these conditions for a long time. It's not a high priority for them. So to me, you give me even a shred of resistance, I'm out. I'm done. I want you to be desperately seeking the services we have to deliver and willing to do anything. And the funny part is, I give it away for free. I don't even care about the money. But as soon as you resist me on the money, I am done. I am not doing that.
So this changes this. So if I think I'm hearing you right, to play my best Chris Voss, right? It feels like you're saying that our job is to identify who is actually our number one job should be identifying who, if this person is a good fit for us. And if we can overserve them, not what is your insurance, or how do I get this person to show up? The very first job, maybe Jerry would want to comment on this too, which would be, is this person a good fit? And you can deal with this in any sort of field. Fire those clients immediately. They're going to cost you more than they're going to pay you every single day. Dave, I feel like we touched on this when we were talking about first phone calls. I feel like this is probably one of the things you're trying to tease out too. You mentioned, if we're not right for you, it costs Dave too much money. You're going to send someone there, and it's going to be, and if they don't show or they bail, that person took up a spot on the calendar. So I feel like identifying and getting and filtering those people out has to be, I mean, is there anything before that? That has to be the first priority.
This is a major filter. If someone calls in and they say like, oh, $200 or $300 per visit, like I've had people over the years, they'll literally say like, that's crazy. And I'm like, immediately, like, obviously it's not going to work out right there, but I do have to get my word in. And I do say something like kind of what we've talked about before, which is like, I say, yeah, it's a premium price for a premium product or a premium experience. It's not for everyone. And it sounds like it's not for you. So I do a takeaway. Now, of course, the person that would be this type of a individual that tries to negotiate an $85 tennis lesson.
Right.
I agree with Tony. There are the folks out there that no matter what, it could be culture. They're from other countries, whatever. And that's totally fine. But there are other cultures that do the haggling and the negotiating. We let them know on the phone, like, there is no negotiating. Like, this is the number. And
Right.
there's no sob story that you can tell me
Right.
that's going to get you some discount, because that's just the way it is. Like, you can't go haggle a $3, gallon milk. Like, that is what it is. The fact that you're calling a service-based business and think that you can haggle,
Right.
we as the service-based business community, at least in the US, if we get haggled like that, at least this is how I feel. I almost want to increase the price on you on the phone.
I got a devious business model idea. Dave, you just gave it to me. You set up, okay, so we understand like price anchoring, right? So by saying, well, we start at this, or, using like $1,500 when really your middle package that you'd like to sell is $800. So suddenly the $800 package seems like a deal. You set up a physical therapy business. The price is way above everybody else. You get them on the phone. You say it's $350 a session. They say that's ridiculous. And then you calmly say, I can easily refer you to 3 colleagues right now that are cheaper, except the colleagues are all part of your business. So you are only there to show people the high end, and they don't want it. You go right this way, but you are the right this way as well. Devious business model idea. Steal it.
I've spoken to some owners in the area, I won't say who, that are even Medicare Part B, different practices, and I've said, hey, but not a like we would refer them, but I said like, hey, like, I'm in the business right now. I want to have equity, I want to have partnerships, like all that. So like, it would not be just a referral. Yes, it would be, we're referring to ABC Physical Therapy that takes your insurance, that takes your Medicare Part B, whatever, and they would not know that we co-own that practice, and that's totally illegal. By the way, we don't have to disclose like I own 10 or 30% or 50% or whatever of that practice. So that, by the way, that happens all the time, and we just don't even know about it.
Oh, I just invented something that already exists. I'm Columbus. I just discovered America. Got it. Okay. Well, it's cool to see that I arrived at the same conclusion, but I didn't know that that was a thing. But I was like, oh my gosh, hang on a second. This is a great opportunity to refer to yourself.
Real quick though, on that same topic, I would never hold it against anybody to see if there's wiggle room in there.
Sure.
So with my courses, I get therapists all the time that are like, hey, do you have any discount codes? Or are there any, is there any way to bring the price down? I'm like, absolutely not. I'm happy you asked. I appreciate that you asked. I would ask, but nope, I keep the price as low as I can. And the reality is, and everybody knows this, it's a digital product. I could make it zero.
Right.
I don't make it zero because the price has an impact on the effectiveness of the content.
Yeah.
But the idea is, I don't hold it against you for asking for less.
Well, I had this conversation with someone yesterday in my work with Vestibular First, and this was not about a digital product. This was about a tangible set of vestibular diagnostic goggles, and they were like, how about 10%? And I literally was like, I need to go into Chris Voss mode here, because I'm not going to say no, right? What I said was, help me understand what the goal of these goggles are. So immediately I went to, what are you going to use these for? What do you think you're going to get out of it? Totally respected them saying like, is there any wiggle room, or is there a discount code? But I said, help me understand like what you're trying to use with these. And then we got into a conversation of like her patients and all those different things. And I said, that's why we exist. So we can exist for you and people 5 years from now. This is what we know we can sell these for. And we're probably selling them for less than we could. And do you know what she did? Bought them.
Interesting.
But
so
people will ask,
a therapist straight up asked for a 10% discount.
Yes. Now here's the only, I will say this, the only time we actually do a discount, because when I started working with Patrick and Alina, because it's a tech company, right? It's a tangible product, right? I said, like, what are your thoughts on, what do you guys do on discounts? And I hoped they were going to say, we don't do them. And they said, we don't do them. And I was like, great. And here's like the greatest example. It's like, you ever seen like a discount on this before? Like the iPhone? The only time you can get this iPhone
financed over time.
Right. Over time financed, or you can get a cheaper one when you can buy a cheaper iPhone 13 when the iPhone 16 comes out, right? But if you start discounting that thing now, where does it stop? I will say this though, and maybe I'll dig deeper into this and come back, but Patrick and Alina say we do a 10% discount if we meet you at a conference. And then I think they give them 30 days. They will give them like a conference. So if you go to CSM, go to their booth, try them on, meet with them, talk with them, and then they give you a timer, an exploding offer. In 30 days, this goes away. And I think if I had to jump into Patrick's brain, it would be, we're going to get so many people to see it. And if it's an exploding offer, the juice is going to be worth the squeeze. But it's also, it's like, don't do Prime Day every other week or it loses its impact. So that's the only time they do it.
Well, the problem is then you start to condition the consumer. So I took my kids into Kohl's the other day. We were buying a belt and I'm like, I don't have a 30% off Kohl's.
I know, because that's all
I don't
Kohl's
want to
is.
buy if I don't have a 30% off. You remember Bed Bath and Beyond, 20% every time.
Everything.
Yeah, so like you
Now
can
they're bankrupt.
condition the consumer.
Yeah. It is conditioning.
So
So-
let me go ahead, Dave.
With the Chris Voss thing, with that type of caller, Jimmy, maybe next time, the one thing that I like to do that is so underrated, and he mentions it in the book, is repeating back to that individual the last couple words or the main words of their question. So that therapist or owner or whoever was asking for a 10% discount, or however they phrase, did they literally say like, are there any discounts or can you give me a discount? Like, how did they frame it?
Yeah. I believe it was similar to what Tim Ferriss said the other day, or there was a video with him and I think Gary Vee, which is, what are the chances? Like that was like his like magic phrase, like go to Starbucks 100 times, go to Starbucks. What are the chances that there's a 10% off coupon? So I think it was similar to like,
But that's a ninja approach to asking
Right.
for a discount. I'm sure that the owner was just like, are there any like promotions or discounts or whatever? And it would behoove owners out there to just repeat back, or you guys with Vestibular First, like repeating back to them that question, like, so you are looking for a discount right now?
right.
And like it almost puts it back on them. And then sometimes that owner would be like, yeah, I mean, like if it was only available, but like, all right, it was stupid question. It's fine. Like I'll just pay in full right now. Right. So
Right.
like it flips it back on them almost like a mirror. And then they're like, all right, well, like maybe I was just kind of overstepping and
Right.
like now I feel awkward or embarrassed. And like, fine, I'll just pay the full price. It's no big deal. Sorry.
As long as you do it where you're not like making them feel bad. So you're looking for a discount for the goggles.
Like a curiosity based,
Yeah.
like you're intrigued. You're like, oh,
Right.
so like, did I hear you right? Like you were asking for a discount or a promotion?
Right. It's what I was taught in tennis. I didn't start playing tennis until high school because I couldn't make the baseball team because I was a 5'6" first baseman, which doesn't work. And my tennis coach was like, here's the thing. You're trying to hit a home run. I was trying to blow balls by people because I was like, that's how you win at tennis. And he really just said, your job in tennis is to make them make the error. Like your job is to make them hit the ball more than you because you want them to hit it out. So it was like, just get an unforced error, right? Like just let them screw up. So the answer is like what Chris Voss would say, hostage situation, high stakes, make them talk more than you, right? It's like, I want to show you how in charge I am. I'm going to say more words louder and faster. Voss is like, it's actually the opposite. It's who can get the other person talking more so that they arrive at the conclusion, hopefully that you want them to. But yeah, so that was how that went down yesterday.
Real quick for context, anybody watching, if you haven't seen Noah Kagan, this is one of his things is go out, ask for a 10% discount, go to Starbucks, ask the cashier. Even if they say no, who cares? It's no big deal. But it's just getting you comfortable asking for that and kind of having that conversation. So Noah Kagan's good buddies with the guy you just said, the 4-hour work week.
Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss. So it all goes full circle back into PT Breakfast Club podcast.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's all humans, right? Did you ever hear the phrase, it's all turtles all the way down? Do you know where that one comes from? It's turtle.
No.
So like, it was like back in Greek times, they were like, what does the earth sit on? And then some philosopher was like, a giant in the back of a giant turtle. And they were like, okay, what is that turtle sitting on? And they were like, another giant turtle. I'm like, what's below that? Like, it's turtles all the way down, man. So my translation for that is like, I know we're talking about physical therapy and business. It's people all the way down. It's people. People are the cause of and solution to all of these problems, right? And unless you're growing new people, learning how to communicate or learning how to filter in or out good people for your business in terms of what Jerry Durham is saying, who you're working with or working for, or the clients on the other side, you're gonna be a frustrated business owner. If you think you're in the business game, I think you're wrong. I think you're in the people business. We all are. Everybody is. I don't care what you provide or sell.
So Dave just talked to Jordan Mather, I was watching that episode yesterday.
I gotta watch that.
Talking about Google ads, Facebook ads, when it works better. I've got a specific question coming from Jeremy Sutton. So talking to Jeremy, we were talking about the wait lists again. We were saying, how can we leverage, our availability, help these clients that are sitting on wait lists for hospital clinics and other bigger corporate clinics. I want to hear your guys' feedback, because Jerry said, well, how do I do this? Like practical, how do I actually do this? This morning, before we got on, I asked ChatGPT. I said, I'm a private practice owner, physical therapist. I have ample openings on my schedule. And there are patients locally who are waiting 3 to 6 weeks to start physical therapy at other practices. What are your recommendations for helping me to communicate to these patients that I can take them today? And ChatGPT gave me a bunch of, suggestions, of course, Google ads, Facebook ads, social media, all this other stuff. And then I said, write me a blurb. I want you to use copywriting to write me a blurb that communicates to the patient that I have appointments available today. And if your doctor told you to go somewhere else, but it's a 3-week waiting list, you can start with me today. And then you can transition to that other provider when you're finished waiting on the wait list. So I posted what ChatGPT wrote in my Medicare group. But what do you guys say? Let's start with Dave, because this is fresh on his topic. How does Jeremy get the word out to potential patients to say, hey, I can see you today. You don't have to wait 3 or 6 weeks.
I mean, Jeremy, you certainly can be putting out organic content videos and things like that, where you're literally saying that. We say this over the phone. I don't think I've covered this with you guys before. We say this all the time. I created a little name for it. We call it a bridge visit. We have people that call us, right? And they're like, oh, you don't take Medicare, you don't take this insurance or whatever. Like, oh, we were really looking to use our insurance, and we call this other place, but they, Fox Rehab or whatever, they have like a 4 or 6 week waiting list. We call this other place Sunrise, they have like a 3-week waiting list. I was like, and we'll say, we call it a bridge visit, or 1 or 2 visits or whatever you want to call it. But like, we'll say, hey, you're right, we're expensive. Yes, we're premium. Yes, we're out of pocket. Those other places, they take your insurance, but they have a waiting list. But you kind of want to use your insurance, is what you're saying. And you were hoping to use your insurance like those places, but to try to find a place that's available this week. Well, we are available this week. We can be a bridge visit. You can use this. There's no contract. You can use this for one visit, 2 visits, whatever, 1 week, 2 weeks. You could work with us. We can get you started. And then whenever that next practice, that next company is ready for you, and you're next up on the queue of the waiting list, you cut ties with us, you go work with them. We've used it for years, and it's great because some percentage of folks, they start with us and they're never going to change. They have no idea that down the road they end up spending or investing a lot of dollars with our service. But it took we just framed it differently. We're like, hey, like, totally fine. Like, we're not signing some contract. We're not getting married. Like, you can work with us. You could try us out for 1 or 2 visits. If you don't like it, no problem. Some people end up staying with us forever. Now, in terms of Jeremy Sutton, you just have to put that in organic content. Maybe you put that in a video, and you have, you run Facebook ads or Instagram ads as like a bridge visit. Like, you could, the topic, the headline of the ad could be something like, no waiting list, pain relief right away, physical therapy right away, no waiting list, whatever, talk to those pain points. You might get some of those folks that are shopping around. They're calling 3, 4, 5 places. And if they see that content or they hear about that offering, it sounds great. There's no contract. There's no package. They're not going to be on the hook for anything. They can cut ties anytime they want.
Jimmy, he named it. You always talk about, you name it.
It's got to have a name. If it's a name, it's a thing. If it's a name, it's a thing, because you can talk about it internally and everybody understands it. And once everybody understands it, once and only everybody understands it, is when you can sell it externally.
Oh, right? And I didn't describe it well enough, but I did. I called it a bridge visit, and we would say on the phone, it's a bridge visit. It's taking you from where you are now to connect you to the Fox Rehab, whatever. We're going to be the bridge from right now, so that you get some care at home, you get some mobility, you get some therapy or relief or hands-on treatment, whatever the longevity services, whatever we want to frame it. But we'll say, we'll take you from here and connect you to whenever that other practice is ready for you. And then some will you know, do the Fox rehab jump, which is totally fine.
Yep.
And then some will be like, oh, this is amazing. You know, Dr. Chris or whoever is great. And then they stay with us for 1 or 2 years.
Yep. So you highlight good, fast, or cheap. Pick two. You only get to pick two, right? And we just discussed why you shouldn't lower your rates, because if you do, so really you're gonna highlight good and fast, right? But Tony, you said, how would you do it? Let's say you have this, it's Thursday, you've got this tomorrow. I'm going to give you my 3 answers and I want to hear yours. These are mine in order. This is why you capture phone numbers and permission to send a text message or call, right? Because you could do that fast. You're getting into someone's ear and on their eye. This is the most valuable real estate in the world. If you can call me and make your name come up here on my smartphone, I'm going to look at this. I don't know what the stat is, 4 billion times a day. That might be a little high. Emails. If you can get into someone's inbox, I'd say that's the second most valuable real estate in the world digitally, because we check our emails way too much. And then finally, I would go social, because if you're going to do this fast, right? These are people. This is why it's important to build a network. I would go with stories or a quick Instagram live or something like that. You see Marcus Lemonis from The Profit. He does this a lot for Camping World or whatever he works for. He'll go live and say, guys, we're getting rid of these. We've got whatever. And if you build a network, this is why there's work, and this is why social media doesn't work unless you work to earn people's attention first. But if you have a bank, if you have a list of phone numbers that you have permission to send a text message to, that's fast. Or you can call them and say, I have this bridge visit or something. If I had to fill a list, if I had to fill spots now, these are the orders. Text, phone, if you had them, I would use them fast. Email, you can mass email people, right? Even better. And then stories is another mass communication device. So those are my 3 in order. If I had to fill 5 spots tomorrow or my family doesn't eat, I go text/phone, email, stories in that order. And you can do all those if you can't do those in an hour and execute that campaign in an hour, look what Tony just said. I explained it to ChatGPT, worked with a little art, except what Tony left out is the sort of the magic, right? All the work you did before that to earn that connection so that you could call someone and have permission, or you could email, you have their connection.
And I think that's the hardest part. I think a lot of therapists seeing this, maybe they're just getting started. They're like, I don't have money to pay for Facebook ads. I don't have a following on social media. I don't have a list that I could do a reactivation campaign with. So what do I do then? Well, it's just like anything else. Like, when's the best time to plant the tree?
Say the same damn thing.
Years ago, yeah. Second best time today. Like, you just have to get started and you have to look at this. And I'm the first one to say most of the people that I've seen fail, and I see very few people fail when they go into business for themselves, is because they're undercapitalized. They're going out there trying to do it and they don't have any resources behind them. They don't have a competitive advantage. They have no connections. Like, you have to start with something, and so this would be where, if I'm in Jimmy's shoes, where I'm like, I need money tomorrow, I'm not going to waste time trying to go direct to consumer. That takes too much time. I'm going to go look for a PRN job. I'm going to find a business who already has patients, who's waiting for those patients to be seen. I'm going to sell my services there. But if I had the time or the resources, to Dave's credit, I would go with an ad. I would pay to put my message in front of those people if I haven't built an audience yet. But if I have an audience, you guys saw, I went on my Facebook group. I went out to my YouTube channel. I said, hey, I'm taking these calls. It's, through the Clarity website, and people started booking calls. But that was a reserve that I had if I ever needed to access it. So there are ways to do this. And just so you guys know, the reason why I went down that road specifically with ChatGPT was because I know there are patients out there who think, the doctor told me to go to Dave. I'm not going to see anybody else except Dave, but my back is killing me. I need to do something. So you give that person a way out. So they're not avoiding what their doctor said, but they're saying, oh, now, and I love Bridge Visit. I think that's genius.
Yeah.
Now I've got this other thing that I can still go see the therapist my doctor prescribed, but I can start getting relief today. And that's where I think you got to handle those objections before they ever get vocalized.
Yep.
Love it. Really quick, I know we're running late on time, but the good, fast, cheap. my practice, concierge pain relief, home visits, we're premium. We hardly take any insurances. So we're not cheap. We are fast because we don't have a waiting list. Typically we want to strive to be great, but we'll take good. So we're good and fast, but we're not cheap. Tony, your practice, Total Therapy Solutions. I think you would argue that you're all three. How is that possible? Jimmy said, hey, pick two. Are you all three, or are you only two of the three?
I think good is too mid of a word. I think it should be great, fast, cheap. Yeah, I got kids in high school. No, I think we're fast and cheap. I will absolutely sacrifice great. I think we're good enough, but we are fast and we are cheap. I will get you in right now. I will make it affordable. I will make it, covered by your insurance. Yeah. But it's not going to be great. It's going to be good enough.
Go through the major companies, right? It's a little, I guess it's easier to like when you start looking at this, which is like Apple. They're great and
not
they're
cheap,
fast, but they're not cheap. McDonald's is fast and cheap. They're not great. They're self-described. These are not the greatest things in the world. Amazon is interesting because it's fast. It's always available. I think the cheap thing is relative because they're a bridge, right? They just connect you. What's cheap? But if you compete with Amazon and you want to actually sell stuff on Amazon, because Amazon really doesn't really sell anything, right? Let you sell stuff. The cheap is variable, so they're going to be cheap. So they are fast and cheap. You decide if it's great or not. So I think that's where it starts to get murky on that third one.
I would say that Amazon is fast and great and not necessarily cheap.
Fast.
Right.
And
I think they're great because you can order. I forget, like a week or so ago, I ordered something. What was the thing? Last week I had a contusion in my lower leg. From baseball, I fouled a ball off 2 Sundays ago. And last week I had a game on Friday night. I ordered one of those leg protective braces that the MLB players Velcro around their ankle.
Right.
It came the next day. Dude, that's incredible. That is great.
But
and now
doesn't the competition drive the prices down? Because if there was something like that for the ankle for $50 or $100, the $50 one, if they had the same amount of stars, right, would outsell that one. So don't they drive prices down because it's all competition?
I mean, I think the same thing, that Walmart does. So yeah, I mean, like they're Walmart. I think Walmart, Amazon, you could say maybe there's different perspectives, right? So like the employees that work at Walmart, like they would probably say like, hey, it's not great here. Like you've heard stories, like they're on, social services and things like that. So I don't know, maybe it's challenging to look at or dice up some of these with this, not dichotomy, this trichotomy, whatever this, example is.
Good, fast, and cheap. All right, time for parting shots. Dave, Tony, what do you got?
So if you guys aren't using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, like I use these tools every single day. They don't do the thinking for me. They help me do better thinking. That's the whole idea behind it. Get out there and experiment, play around with this stuff.
Yeah. I just taught some people or just walked them through just what I know. And like, literally I thought my camera or my microphone had been unplugged because they were sort of staring at me like this when I was clearly done talking. And I'm like, can you not hear me? And they were like, that's crazy. And I'm like, right. Like it's right now you have access to what I just explained to you and showed you how to do. And they were just sort of like dumbfounded. Like it's insane. It's wild.
Quick parting shot, just tipping my cap here to Jerry Durham with his whole front desk approach. And it is, it's great that it's finally, or it has been more in the forefront, a lot from him pushing his content and his talks and his podcasts and all that. And yeah, he's a good friend of mine, but like he helps a ton of practice owners. He helps the front desk folks understand like what's their role, their tasks, their responsibilities, how valuable they are to a practice. And it's just great to see that he's got another talk accepted at PPS. So if you guys are going to PPS, I definitely suggest you go check out Jerry Durham's talk.
We got to talk more, Tony, about what we want to do there. Like, let's talk about only in public, though. Like, I think finding a company and like be like, hey, let's like, what was the company that did this at like the National Football Championship? Like, wasn't it like, oh, I can't remember what that was. They like, it was like some social media personality said, I want tickets for the National College Football Championship and I'll wear your t-shirt or whatever. And within 48 hours, they had like a brand deal and 15 seats and they wore the shirts because they made it such a big deal. The brand was like, I feel like it was kayak.com who was the one who came through. We'll talk about that on Tuesday. So we'll figure out what we're going to do at PPS. My parting shot would be, and I'm doing this now with going back to PPS. I think I sort of shifted into this bad mindset of, well, now I need to only teach, or I need to only be like sharing the knowledge, right? And just creating content and going out. And I'm not been doing enough job of reading, listening, watching, which I'm excited to go to PPS and just lurk and watch and intake. So for anybody who's talking, I don't know what the ratio is, but maybe it's 2-1. You should probably be listening, reading, hearing, consuming twice as much. But there's that thinking part, processing, and before you start speaking. And that's coming from a guy who speaks a lot. So I'm getting more back into this. So my parting shot is maybe that golden 2-1 ratio of intake before you start to put out. We'll be back Tuesday. We did get a couple requests, Tony, to show off the treadmill. But I didn't want to just do that in 5 minutes. Maybe we make that the first segment on Tuesday. Like, let's dig in for a half hour and like show us the bells and whistles and like all
and same thing. I'm gonna build that program in public. We'll talk about it. You guys can, borrow any of those ideas that you want. Okay. We'll see you guys back here live on Tuesday. You can always reach us on those ridiculous social channels that we share. And if you're a brand going to PPS and you want the PT version of College Game Day, maybe we'll get a big giant head and we'll start putting it on one of us during live streams. We'll see you guys next week.